Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be my makeup predictions video where I predict releases that I think we might see in 2025, and I will also be looking back at the predictions I made for this year and seeing how many of them came true. Was I right? So without further ado, let's find out, shall we? Okay, so to start off, let's take a look at the predictions I made for 2024 and see how I did. Let's just say I didn't do very well. I typically do really well and I usually do 10 predictions, and I would say usually I get a good 7 or 8. This year has not gone well for me, okay? I've done terribly, but I will say I'm filming this in like the middle of November, so I have slightly jumped the gun, and I hope we don't see a load of these get ticked off towards the end of the year, because that would be really infuriating. But if that does happen, remember I got more right, because I'm trying to pre-film and get all my content ready for December. I'm taking a bit of a risk and filming this a bit early, so it's definitely possible that some of these will still come out this year and I will have been robbed of another tick in my boxes. But because of pre-filming, I have to do it now. So I am taking a bit of a risk, and I want you to go easy on me because I feel like I've done terribly this year. Next year is going to be a full house, I just know it. So let's start off with what I'm calling like a semi-win, okay? I'm going to give myself half a mark for this. I thought we would see Pat McGrath lipstick revamp, specifically her matte lipsticks. And while we didn't see like a complete sort of relaunch, overhaul, restock of all of her matte lipsticks, we have seen quite a few new matte lipsticks coming from Pat McGrath. So I'm giving myself half a mark. I definitely envisioned something a bit more dramatic as far as, you know, maybe she was going to discontinue and redo her whole matte line, which we didn't see. But I'm giving myself that. We got the pencil form of lipstick, the lip pencils that are matte. So I'm giving myself half a mark. It wasn't quite what I thought we were going to get, but I wasn't wrong either, okay? I'm giving myself half a mark and you can't stop me. Next up, I predicted a Tom Ford base overhaul of some shape or form. And we did get a revamp of his soft matte foundation, a reformulation. We went from, you know, the plastic bottles to the Tom Ford soft matte architecture. So I'm going to give myself a mark for that. We also saw his primer revamped as well, the Shade Illuminate primer, revamped, reformulated, repackaged. So it wasn't, thankfully, it wasn't quite as dramatic, because I thought we might be getting rid of this little number or reformulating it, which I'm really glad we didn't. I still fear it's coming anytime. But again, I would say that we got a Tom Ford base overhaul this year. We got a couple of reformulations and repackagings, so I'm giving myself that one. And again, you can't stop me. Next up, another prediction that I'm going to give myself, because I have to give myself something, or I'll be on completely 0 points if I don't give myself these little wins. But I said we would see another Charlotte Tilbury large eyeshadow palette. Now, the Beautyverse Love palette, the Beautyverse palette, they count as large, okay? They're not a quad, they're not a mini, they're not singles. They count, okay? They've got 9 eyeshadows, they're a large eyeshadow palette, and I will not hear any different. I think what I thought we would see was a return to her rectangular instant eye look palettes, which we didn't. I think she seems to be going more for the 9 pans, which I'm not mad about because I do like that format. They're nice to store, the packaging is nice. They're a nice sort of not too large shape and size, so I don't mind that. And I'm really glad that we got another large size palette. And although it maybe wasn't the shape and size I was expecting, I'm counting it. Again, we got a Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow palette that was a full size and not a quad. So I'm giving myself all 3 of those points so far. And here's where things go downhill. Next up, I thought we were going to get a Pat McGrath foundation, and I have seen glimpses, I've seen sneak peeks, and this is one that, you know, could drop any day now, that she has a new complexion product coming. I've seen little sneak peeks of it. If I can find a photo that I'm not scared to post, I will insert it here. But there is a new base product coming from Pat McGrath, but it hasn't come yet. So I can't give myself that unless, like I said, by the time this goes live, it's launched, in which case give me another point, because I know it's coming. I'm not sure it's going to make it in 2024. I think we'll see it early 2025. Darn you, Pat McGrath. Another prediction that we definitely didn't see, and I haven't seen hide or hair of yet, so it's an absolute fail, is Pat McGrath's cream bronzer slash contours. This was one I was really sure about because she has released cream highlights, you know, wands, and then powder highlights, cream blushes. We've got her stick blushes and powder blushes, but we've only got powder bronzers. So I was convinced she wants to have cream and powder formulas in all of the cheap products, and the bronzer is the one we're missing. We don't have cream bronzers or contours. I was adamant that this was going to be seen this year, and obviously I haven't seen hide or hair of it or even heard a whisper about it. I still feel like they'll come at some point, but they have not come this year, which is very sad, an absolute fail. Next up, I predicted that Natasha Denona would be giving us a midi palette of pinks. Again, I'm going to give myself this one because although Rephr in theory is sold and sort of targeted as a purples palette, there's a lot of pink in there. Okay, there's a lot of pinks in there. A lot of people were saying, I wish this was actually purple and not so pink. So I'm giving myself this. I was definitely along the lines, the right ballpark. A lot of the time when I use this palette, it comes out quite pink. I'm giving myself that. I think we've also got a midi rose palette coming soon. Again, maybe that will sneak into 2024. I think it's more likely to be 2025. So we'll see. But either way, I'm giving myself that. I think I was correct. Another out and out fail is a Nars foundation. Again, I'm really surprised about this one. I feel like Nars bring out foundations and replace and reformulate quite frequently, and we didn't see a new Nars foundation this year, which I'm really surprised about and kind of sad because I love Nars foundations. So that was an out and out fail. I haven't seen or heard anything about a new Nars foundation. It's got to be next year, I'm sure of it. Another out and out fail, you'll see the theme we're following now, Natasha Denona bronzers. Now we did get, you know, bronzer in her face palettes, but that wasn't really what I was expecting. I was wanting and expecting to see a range of permanent single bronzers. We didn't get it. I still feel like it's a massive gap in her brand that she needs to fill. I think we'll see it sooner rather than later, but we didn't see it in 2024, so another fail from me. Next, I said Charlotte Tilbury cream blushes slash, in my ultimate Barbie dream world, a cream cheek palette. So something like her Lovegasm palette, her Nudegasm palette. I thought, not necessarily that we would get it, but I dream, because anyone who loves cream products would go nuts for these. I did dream and wish and pray and hope for my cream loving friends that we would see a cream cheek palette from Charlotte Tilbury, which we obviously didn't, but we did see an extension to her blush line in the cream blushes. So that was kind of a 50-50. We didn't get the palettes, but we did get more cream blushes, which is another thing that I predicted we would see. So 50-50 on that one. And then we had two more big fat fails. Lisa Eldridge bronzers. That was very much wishful thinking. I haven't heard anything about them. I don't know when or if she's planning on doing bronzers. I want them desperately, but obviously we didn't see them this year and they aren't coming anytime soon. And finally, probably the one I'm the most surprised that we didn't see is Hourglass cream bronzer sticks. So, you know, they have their Banish foundation stick, they have their blush sticks, they have their highlight sticks. Again, I really feel like cream bronzer sticks from Hourglass are coming. It's the one thing they don't have. It feels like very much on brand for them. So I'm really surprised we haven't seen them yet. I felt really confident that we would see those this year in a really nice range of shades. We didn't. But I still feel like they're coming, but more so looks like it's not going to be this year, or will be 2025 or later. We did get Gucci powder highlighters, which were not in my 2024 predictions, but they were in my 2023 predictions. I was just ahead of my time, okay? So that's some consolation. But I did terribly. Looking at this from last year, it looks like I made 11 predictions. I don't know why I did that. What a horrible little number. Usually I do 10, and maybe I got carried away and miscounted. I literally got like 4.5 right. That's awful. I'm usually so much more psychic than that. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was something to do with the moons or something. It's not my fault. I'm usually very good at this, I promise you. So this year I've gone in, okay? I've really tapped in to the wavelengths. I have tapped in to the minds of the creators at these beauty brands, and I know exactly what's coming next year. Now these, I'm going to go 10 for 10. I just know it. This is going to be my year for getting all of them right. So as usual, if you're new to these videos from me, I like to predict products that I think will be coming next year, but nothing in here that I know is coming, or I've seen a sneak peek of, or there's a lot of talk about. These are out and out educated guesses based on feelings and the sounds of the sea. Very scientific and factually correct usually, but we don't know what happened this year. But we're moving on. This year's going to be great. I know it. But none of these, I haven't cheated. These are not things I know are coming or I've seen a sneak peek of. These are just products that I wish/think we should be seeing in 2025. So kicking us off, I'm going to repeat myself. My prayer that I said last year, I'm going to say it again this year. Lisa Eldridge bronzers. I've heard no talk of them. I feel like it's the one product left that we haven't seen anything like. We know concealers are coming soon. We've got eyeshadows, mascaras, we've had blushes, we know they're coming back as well. We've had highlighters, we've got lots of lipsticks and glosses. We've got a setting spray. It's got to be bronzers. Bronzers have got to be in the works. I'm sure of it. We'll see them soon. Will they probably be cream, I think? But maybe, I don't know. I think they'll be cream. Just like her blush and highlighter, I think we'll see cream first. Please, Lisa, 2025, give us them. Next up, I'm also going to repeat my Hourglass bronzer sticks. I'm 100% confident that that is coming soon. I'm going to put it back in for 2025. It's got to be 2025. Next up, Huda Beauty has told us that she's made her last ever large eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to predict that to be a semi-lie. Not that we're going to see another one of her large eyeshadow palettes, but I think we're going to see a large format, a full-size format from Huda that's just different or looks different size-wise, maybe number of shades, to her current large palette. Something like when Charlotte Tilbury moved from her rectangular instant eye palettes to her Beautyverse format. That's what I predict we're going to get from Huda Beauty. And I also predict that that will be in a greens colour story, maybe for spring, because we really haven't seen those shades from Huda. We've had a lot of cool tones, grungier looks, purples and pinks. We really haven't seen in a larger palette format some greens. So that's going to be my prediction, that Huda's going to, instead of only doing minis or obsessions palettes, there's going to be a larger format palette next year in the green colour story, but it's going to be slightly different shape or format to her existing larger palette. Hence why she said Icy Nude was her last ever large palette. I think that might have been slightly misleading. That's what I think we'll see from Huda. Next up, I think from Dior, we're going to see an absolutely killer liquid foundation in 2025. Their stick foundation has gone down phenomenally well. They have reformulated a couple of their existing foundations, but we haven't seen an all new liquid foundation from Dior for quite a while now. So I feel like off the back of the stick foundation, they've got a grip of formulations, they've got a grip of their undertones, they've got a grip of what we want from them as a brand. I think we're going to see a new liquid foundation from Dior in 2025, and I think it's going to be glorious. Probably something glowy, because their Glow foundation has gone quite down in the glowy stakes. A lot of people who loved that, and that was their holy grail, when it got reformulated, found it was no longer as glowy as it once was. So I think we might see a glowier foundation from Dior in 2025 in liquid form. I would love that. Yes, please. Next up, I'm sending my prayers to the makeup gods that we're going to see a mothership from Pat McGrath. Obviously, it didn't come when it usually does. Instead, we got the holiday collection when typically we see the mothership first. We haven't had a mothership yet this year, and I'm praying this does not mean we aren't getting any more of them. Please let that not be the case. I'm sending positive vibes out into the universe. We need motherships to keep coming, okay, mother? We need this. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be very different from anything we've seen before. That's why I'm hoping it's taken longer to arrive, because she's been putting a lot of time and effort into giving the people what we've been asking for. I think it will be very low on the pinks and golds, maybe something very, very neutral, or something very, very rainbow. It will be very different. I believe and pray that it's coming. Next up, I think we'll see from Charlotte Tilbury some new powder blushes. I also think we'll see more palettes along the Lovegasm lines because they always sell so well for her. She did the duos this year, which I don't think went as well. So I think they may learn from that and go back to the 4-pan palettes, kind of in line with like competitor to the Hourglass palettes. I think we'll see something like that. I also think it's been a really long time since we saw new powder blush shades from Charlotte Tilbury. It's been too long. I think we're going to see some more powder blushes from Charlotte Tilbury. I also think we're due a Nars concealer, a new Nars concealer. Perhaps we might get the foundation I predicted this year will come next year along with a new concealer. I feel like they haven't had a new concealer for such a long time. I want to see a liquid concealer with full coverage because their kind of Radiant Creamy is quite A, radiant, and B, doesn't have that much coverage. So I think we'll see something like their pot concealer in liquid form, something full coverage, more matte, liquid concealer from Nars. I really hope so. I think that will be great. Next up, I think we'll see from Chanel oversized bronzers in a range of shades. We've been doing oversized products from Chanel all year long. We've had palettes with bronzer, highlighter and blush. We've had oversized highlighters. I feel like we're going to see new oversized bronzers in a range of shades. It's been a while since they did that. I think we'll see a new formula, possibly something a bit more luminous because typically the previous releases have all been matte. I would love an oversized glowy bronzer from Chanel. That's something we actually can use. These oversized 25 grams of highlighter, we're never going to even touch the surface of those. Give us an oversized bronzer that's a bit glowy. I'm telling you, the people will go nuts, Chanel. Give the people what they want. That I would love to see. Give us something we actually need and could use up, okay? It will take us 3 years, but I think we can do it. Next up, something that I feel very confident again that we're going to see in 2025 is a concealer from Patrick Ta. He gave us a foundation. It's very common for brands to do sort of foundation and concealer for the first time together. What it tells me is he focused on his foundation. As soon as they've got your foundation formula out there in the world, it's going to be coming 100%. I feel like we're getting a concealer from him. I feel it will be made to sort of accompany his foundation, so it will probably be a natural medium coverage, maybe with a bit of radiance to it, something quite like the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer I would predict for him, that same packaging to go along with his foundation. I feel very confident it would make sense that that will come this year as well. And finally, I think it's time for a Natasha Denona Midi Rainbow Colour Story palette. We haven't really had a rainbow colour story from the brand since Circa Loco, and that was in her larger form. Am I forgetting one? Did I just not buy it? I feel like it's been quite a while. We've gone back through greens, purples, pinks, neutrals, cools and warms. I feel like what's coming next is some kind of rainbow, maybe pastels, very much indie brand inspired rainbow colour story, but in a midi palette size. I feel like that might be coming. We know the midi rose is coming, but I think we're going to see something much more colourful as well from Natasha Denona in her really popular midi size in 2025. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 predictions that I believe and hope and wish and pray we will be seeing in 2025. Bronzers from Lisa Eldridge and bronzer sticks from Hourglass. A new format for Huda's larger eyeshadow palette, possibly in a green colour story. New liquid foundation from Dior. A mothership from Pat McGrath, different to anything we've seen before. New blush shades from Charlotte Tilbury. A new Nars concealer. Chanel oversized bronzers. Patrick Tar concealer. And again, I've done 11. How does this happen? I can't count, apparently. We've got 11 with the Natasha Denona Rainbow Midi palette. I'm so annoying. Maybe one of my predictions should have been that I'm going to learn to count this year. But that will go in my resolutions. But there you have it. Please let me know what you think of my predictions. Do you think I'm going to be right? Do you think I'm way off? Have you got some other predictions that you want to add to my list? Please let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.